How do things smell? What do they look like? And I try to make that moment as real for me as I possibly can, living in it, being in it. And when I wake up or open my eyes, I write that down on a note card saying, on this day, let's say on April 27th, 2021, I am closing the door to my little tiny car, having packed all my things inside, just finishing my following year of school, having accomplished, finished this film project, having become someone who's better at listening and loving other people, having enjoyed the relationships I had with my roommates, looking forward to becoming more creative.
Welcome to the Empower, Create, Encourage podcast. You're here with me, Alessandra Guerra. Hi, welcome. Today I'm going to be interviewing the creative Andrew Soulier. I was so happy to have him join my podcast. I learned the importance of listening for healthy communication and techniques on how to build relationships with people that are currently in my life and people who I would want to be in my life. Let's take a look. I'm so glad you're on the podcast today. Thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me.
What creative projects are you working on right now?
Ooh, that's a really good question. With COVID, things have obviously been shifted around because I can't meet with people in person. But I'm currently working with an idea called Show and Tell, where I want to meet with artists. Because I'm really, what's amazing is when you get multiple artists to work on something together and bring together their skills. I just love seeing that. And so I wanted to kind of create a series of videos where I can kind of meet with other artists and we can show what they do. And if they can tell us a little bit about how to do it, like kind of small tutorials, but in a way that's lively and in a storytelling setting to kind of just help people who are watching these videos get creatively inspired to get new ideas that they can then apply in their life and apply to their own art. So that's one idea that I'm currently writing and trying to figure out how we'll get this all done with COVID.
That sounds incredible. Actually, an artist came to mind. And I think the great thing is that this happened. Obviously, it's sad that this even happened, but it's great that it happened at a time where technology is thriving and we have so many means and tools to be able to connect with people online.
Oh, for sure. Having FaceTime calls and being able to text and send recordings back and forth to each other makes this a whole lot easier, for sure.
It does. Can you imagine if we were back in the letter times where you just have to send a horse or a pigeon? Or
yeah. Look for my next pigeon within the next 560 hours.
So I'm very excited to hear about that project, and I'm going to be looking forward to seeing how that show and tell project goes. So a question I had for you is, what is your purpose when you take on film projects? For your show and tell, what would be the purpose of that and other projects that you take on?
When I take on these film projects, I really want to, well, first off, there's a bit of self-interest here. So I love to express myself. Love to, I just feel like in film, I can say things, I can do things that aren't, I'm not worried about doing it like I sometimes am in person. That I can be very open, and I can also say things exactly how I want them, because sometimes in person I don't say it right the first time, and so with film I can, you can do multiple takes. And there's something special about being on set of a film where everyone is there. There's a certain energy, even if it is at 4 a.m. in the morning. There's still this magic that's kind of happening of everyone kind of just being busy bees and just working and getting everything done. And you kind of get to have some real fun. Some you got to climb on top of towers just to set up a camera, or run around holding a microphone trying to just be a little tiny ninja while you're trying to get the audio but not be in the shot. And so honestly, some of my best friendships have developed from just film projects. So I love that, and I think those are the two things that really drive me, which is not so much the end product. I just really enjoy the process.
That's so beautiful. I feel like the process of things is so important, and it's the most beautiful part, because it's a part that it can be tedious. honestly. Like, I feel like when I'm striving towards my goal, like writing the book and the podcast, the little everyday things can be tedious and monotonous, but the process of the journey is also beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
For you, what needs to happen when you take on a film project? What needs to happen for you to feel that it was successful?
Ooh, actually, that's a really great question. Um, for me, like my definition of success is, will those people that I'm working with, did they enjoy it, and are we gonna keep going? Are we gonna keep making more films together? That's what I love to see. Or did people who are brand new to the crew, who are still kind of learning their trade, did they get better? Or do they feel inspired, or did they kind of pass the entire time feeling like they were just maybe dragging down the team and feeling bad about themselves? Is I see a film as a success that way. And here's the thing: is when people are having fun and they feel good while they're working, then the product turns out phenomenal, and you can watch that. And I mean, to be honest, we're hobbyist filmmakers. We don't have big budgets, and most of our stuff people will see, but like it's not really going to go very very far. We have hopes, but we at the same time we know that. But when you watch that with your crew, when you watch that final product with the crew in there, and it's the first reveal, you can just remember all of the happy times or the stressful times. You can look back and laugh, and you can look back and like it's a way of like documenting our friendship. So really for me, those successful films are ones where our relationships are strengthened by the end of the project, and hopefully people don't walk away saying, oh well, I don't ever want to work with this guy again.
So if I'm understanding correctly, what you love about it is connecting with people and building the relationships with people.
Yeah, that's the most precious part.
So when you're talking, it sounds very empowering, this whole experience of people getting to be better, enjoying the process, and feeling empowered. How has creativity empowered you?
Ooh. um well, first off, it's given me a bit more direction in my life. That beforehand I used to think that I wasn't a very creative person, as probably many other people who either listen to your podcast or other people will feel like they just don't feel very creative. They don't feel like they're good at writing, or they're good at anything. But as I've kind of just played with my creativity and really let it flourish, it helps me understand that we are creative people. Everyone's has creativity in themselves, and that opened a whole door of possibilities career wise in my life, and I can kind of understand where I want to go with this. And just by having that clarity, I can see where I want to go. Like I for a long time I wanted to computer science, and just computer science, just the boring stuff, no creativity required. But later on I realized, like, no, like I love film, and I actually think that I can make a big impact in people's lives. I don't know where I'll go, maybe marketing or making ads or helping companies communicate better or be more effective, but through my creativity, that I have a valuable part to play in the world, sharing with this creativity. And so I think that's a way that creativity has definitely changed my life and made it definitely like made my quality of life better, and I feel happier.
I like that a lot. I like how you're talking about broadening the definition, because I feel like it's so easy to say I'm not creative. Like, I can draw five things. I can draw a crab, I can draw a flower, a star, the sun, and a heart. And I've always been like, no, I'm not an artist. But I like doing stuff on Canva, and I like writing, and I like talking. And so I love how you're challenging that definition and broadening the definition of creativity. I feel like a lot of times we limit ourselves by just defining something in one specific way in one little box, and it limits us. So for you, have there been any limiting beliefs that you've had to challenge?
Ooh, writing. For a long time, I felt like I was terrible at writing, mostly because in elementary and middle school, I was terrible at spelling and handwriting, and so I'd write a paper, and I'd always get poor grades on the paper because of my spelling and my handwriting, and sometimes grammar. And so growing up, because I'd always get these terrible grades in English, they would always tell me that, like, I'm doing poorly in English. I associated that with my creativity. which was a lie, and that's false. It took me a long time to realize that just because I had some spelling mistakes and because my handwriting's not fantastic, I'm still a very creative writer. I still have a voice. I still have things to say. But it honestly wasn't until I got into college that I realized that. And honestly, it's been very hard for me to break past that, to remind myself that I am a good writer, and to really help me believe that, because of so many years of people telling me, "Oh, like you always make these grammar mistakes," but that's honestly irrelevant in creativity. So that's one thing that I've had to push past.
I think everybody has things that they have to push past. And I love something that I love doing lately is just challenging these limiting beliefs, these beliefs of I'm not enough or I'm not this because I don't fit this blank, this box, or this very precise definition of things. So I love how you had to challenge that belief. And now you're like, hey, I am creative and I can write things and everything else is irrelevant. It's accepting you for the way that you are and respecting your creativity.
Exactly, precisely.
Andrew, you've shared with me that money is not enough motivation to finish projects,
Oh no.
but it's your desire to help people that moves you forward. Why is the message of people, not products, important to you?
Ooh. Um, that's a really, really, uh, really deep question for me. Is that I just on a fundamental level, people are all we really have in society. Society is made up of people, right? And everything else is just a subset of that. Is that when I work with businesses and I go to them, I you realize that most businesses want money so that they can guarantee that their employees can have food, have shelter, so they can stay, they can be happy. Um, and so really when you think about it that way, that most of the world is I mean, we're looking for to help people. And when you look at it that way, you're so much more open to possibilities. You are more generous. Um, Also, you have more fun, and it's you have more joy. Honestly, joy doesn't come from money. It really doesn't. But seeing someone who joined your crew and felt like they weren't doing a good job, and at the end you can see their confidence, you can see a spark in their eyes, that right there is worth more than $1 million. That is just a precious moment, that builds the self-worth of them, and at the same time makes one feel really good and special, and like that you can make a change in this world, and there's no amount of money that
That
can do
is
that.
that is so beautiful, Andrew. Thank you. As you were talking, I was thinking of right now we're in a very weird air
Now for
space
sure.
worldwide, right? It's a worldwide pandemic. There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of concern for how are people going to thrive financially, how are they going to survive. There's also a lot of beautiful things like unity, but I have a question regarding connecting with people and building relationships with people in two scenarios. One, when you're living with someone and you can't go outside and get away by going to work or doing your normal activities, you're just kind of stuck in this place together. What is one way that you can connect with someone in that environment? Because I imagine things can get tedious. And another scenario, when you want to meet, say that you're single and you're in this pandemic alone and you want to meet more people, what's another way that you would advise people to meet someone? So, two scenarios. One, when you're living with somebody, what's a good way that you can connect? And then another scenario, if you're not living with someone and you want to connect with a new person, what's something you would advise for them to do to connect?
Okay, so I'll start with when you're living with someone. um, I'm very fortunate. I have roommates, and we've been able to self quarantine together. But it's so important to even then take time to get to know each, decide to spend time together, right? And make an event out of it, or a specific time that you're setting aside. Because otherwise, it's just too easy to just be sitting on your own side of the couch. We'll all be sitting on the couch together, and no one say a single word. sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
or we're all on our laptops, and yeah, we're all here, but when we decide like, hey, we're gonna have a game night as roommates tonight at 6, then all of a sudden in people's minds that at 6 we're gonna play a game, and you kind of get these ideas flowing, and so when it comes 6, you can actually sit down and play a game, and that makes the relationship so much more fun. Is that you feel like you're doing stuff together, so actively do something to be together, even though you already are. It sounds contradictory, but do something to be together. When you're not, when you don't have someone in physical close proximity, even still, I personally have actually joined more Facebook groups recently, and I've been more active in comments and posts. I've kind of started to develop relationships, but relationships online are very difficult. You can always suggest to meet someone the first time, FaceTime them. It's something that's pretty socially acceptable, to start to have a video call just to meet them and chat about something you have in common. But then again, like, plan something. Like, actually, this right now, we planned to talk today at 1 o'clock is a very good example of planning something to do, even though we can't be together. And those groups on Facebook, they're not paying me to advertise this, but social groups are wonderful ways you can meet other people and ask them questions. Or I actually met some people doing a high school reunion that everyone from our high school just got on a gigantic Zoom call from our film department, and so younger students also joined, and I was able to meet and talk with them and ask them about their situation. So there's just some different ideas that I've been doing to meet people.
Those sound so fun, and it sounds so simple, but sometimes I feel like it can be intimidating for people that feel maybe a little bit introverted to do it. What would be your advice for those people?
Because this is a big step out of your comfort zone. Sometimes is not only am I talking to someone new, is I'm inviting someone new into my house through a Zoom, through a camera. So that can be very personal. I would say take the risk, but at the same time, understand that many of the people feel like you do, and they're also taking the risk to allow you to see the back wall of your bedroom as well. And so just kind of embrace the awkwardness, embrace how it is, and also know that when you meet them in person, it's going to be different. So many times have I met people online, and then we meet in person, and it's actually really is, you get a second first impression. You really do when it's in person. I don't know why it is, but you get a second first impression. But you already know stuff about the person. You already have a relationship, and so you kind of get do-overs, and it's really nice. And so you just rely on that.
I like that. Just take a step out of your comfort zone and recognize that it's going to be a vulnerable experience, but it's going to be something that's good and healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
Something that came to my mind is for the people that are living together. So it can be challenging to be in such close proximity. In Spanish, we have a saying, es difícil convivir, which means it's very hard to cohabitate.
Oh, pues sí, claro.
And I would imagine that it's very hard being stuck in a place where you can't leave at all, except to get groceries or maybe to walk the dog. What is one thing, we talked about connecting, but what's one thing that you would recommend for people to improve their relationship?
Work on something together. Work on something. Do something that is difficult together. For example, well, I happen to be with my brother and other roommates, and he organized recently this virtual graduation, but all of us took part in working to accomplish something, which was calling other people to have them join the conference, and to organize a speaker, and to organize these wonderful graduation gowns that were made out of plastic and whatnot. But we were all working on something together, and so we weren't an annoyance to each other. we weren't bothering each other, because sometimes when you're just sitting in the same room, you kind of you just annoy each other sometimes. You're just sitting there, you're like, I'm just annoyed that you're sitting on my couch. He's looking at you saying, I'm annoyed that you're sitting on my couch too. But you don't say that. You're just sitting in silence at each other. But when you're working together, you're like, oh, okay, like, I'm grateful that he is calling this person, so that way our collective goal is going together. So you realize it just brings to the forefront of your mind the utility of everyone in the room, because everyone has something to give, big or small. And just having that in the forefront of remembering why these other people who live in your life, how they bless you and how they're helping, that was something that's super helpful for us. So we're just working on things together, even um, planning our quarantine activities has really helped.
Yes, I agree. And I've seen that in my own personal life, working together, being part of a
Mm-hmm.
team. It does make me feel like I value my other team members. I love what they bring to the table. So I agree with that so much. And as you're talking, it makes me think of when you're working together, challenges
Mm-hmm.
arise and there's going to be conflict. When you're living together, there's going to be conflict, like who you don't want to do the dishes, you're tired, who's going to walk the dog, or maybe when you're in a long-term or long distance relationship with someone, hey, you didn't call me today, we didn't spend as much time as I wanted to today, or there's conflicts of meeting new people. And I would imagine on a set, you also encounter challenges. So what's one technique, Andrew, that you could give us that helps you with conflict resolution?
Listen. I would claim 85%. I don't have a stat for that officially, but I would seriously claim that percent. So many times it really is just issue of miscommunication, or a hope. Someone maybe early on in the project thinks that the project is going to go a certain way. They have a certain vision for it, and everyone else is on a different page. And that like, they keep dreaming about this idea that they have, and they think it's going to be so wonderful, and everyone else is dreaming about a different idea, and they think it's going to be so wonderful too. And so when it comes to the actual set, they're like, well, wait a second, everything's wrong. And so listening is such a big important part of problem solving, of communication. And when someone feels heard, someone feels like that their voice matters, even if it really doesn't change the situation, as long as they feel heard, oftentimes I see tensions disappear, and solutions are made so much faster when people are listening. Talking and communicating are not, they are important, but I really attribute my success in that aspect to just listening.
Right away, you're like, listen, listen, that's so important. And as you're talking, I hear you also, you're saying that to communicate expectations, because people in their heads have created their expectations of how one thing's going to
Mm-hmm.
go, and someone else has different expectations. What's a healthy way, do you think, that people can communicate expectations to each
Mm.
other?
So many people, so many students. I'll talk directly to my industry. So many students overlook the importance of pre-planning and the documentation needed. Really, if I can have all my documentation clearly done, and so that when people join the project, they have a script, but they also have a couple drawings of what things will look like, and they have a straight up we have drawings, we have scripts, we have maybe like rehearsed little video clips. Then um, when that happens, everyone's drawing from the same kind of baseline. So for me in that industry is that if you're a creative and you're trying to work with a team, really, really go into your pre-production work to explain really well and in writing. Because if it's just said in the air, it's heard, but it's oftentimes forgotten, to be honest. So in writing, put things down and show people what you're thinking, and clearly be open to other ideas, but make sure that whatever you're doing has been written down first.
And do you think this would also translate to people that you're living with, or maybe relationships, long distance, or any other type of
Oh,
relationships?
absolutely, absolutely. Talk. write down like me and my girlfriend, I have like written down different things that we've decided to do, and that way I don't let myself dream and like go far, because I have I have it written down, like what things we've talked about, and like we share that between each other.
And how has having that written down strengthened your relationship?
It's been wonderful, because we both know what each other's kind of expecting or prepared for. So that was
I love that. That's so beautiful. And it's so simple. Just write it down. That way you're both on the same page about what you want and what expectations to
Mhm,
have of each other.
exactly. I think it's avoided a lot of like awkwardness too.
Awkward miscommunications and arguments. Yes, I agree. Andrew, what do you think your purpose is? What fulfills you?
Seeing people become better. That's something that in all my art I have always drawn upon, and actually by doing this, I really think I have become a better person. So helping other people become better in whatever it may be, and in whatever's important to them.
From what I know of you, I totally see that. And I see you living that
I
purpose
thank you.
a lot. To wrap up with our interview today, what's one thing that that you're grateful that you've empowered yourself to do that has improved the quality of your life?
Can you expand a little more about on that question?
So like one thing that I feel has that has empowered me is just being cognitive consonant. So there's a term called cognitive consonance, which is just if we're congruent with our actions, saying everything that I do, my actions, my thoughts, and my words align with my beliefs. And that allows me to have inner harmony and peace. And I think that's kind of the key to happiness. And the opposite of that is cognitive dissonance, which means that my actions, my words, my thoughts don't align with my beliefs. And that causes internal turmoil and obviously conflict. So, what's a technique that you've done or a tool, something that you've done that has allowed you to improve the quality
Okay,
of your life?
there's one technique that I really love using, and it's different people have different names for it, but essentially what I do is I take a note card, 9 by 5, and I close my eyes and I dream for a short bit. I dream about some point in the foreseeable future that I know will come to pass. For example, I know that at some point my contract at my apartment will end, right? And so, next spring I will be packing up my things, and I will, put those things in my car and close the car door. And that's a date that I know that will come for sure. It'll be a very important date, because I'll be moving apartments, and that'll kind of signify the end of a year for me. And what I dream about is I dream about all the things that I will have accomplished, or the person I will be in that moment. I also take in, wow, how do things feel? How do things smell? What do they look like? And I try and make that moment as real for me as I possibly can, living in it, being in it. And when I wake up or open my eyes, I write that down on a note card, saying, on this day, let's say on April 27th, 2021, I am closing the door to my little tiny car, having packed all my things inside, just finishing my following year of school, having accomplished, finished this film project, having become someone who's better at listening and loving other people, having enjoyed the relationships I had with my roommates, looking forward to becoming more creative. That's just an example of something I will say. Writing that.
That is incredible and that's powerful. That so you're visualizing and you're writing down what
And
you're
not only visualizing,
visualizing.
don't be afraid to put in smell, senses, taste. You can, the more senses you can plug into that, the more your brain has to leech onto. And your brain actually does a phenomenal job about, now that it has that idea so firmly rooted because it's a part of all your senses, of making that a reality. I've actually seen that happen multiple times. I wrote that down for my past spring semester, and that gave me so much motivation to get a film society up and running, and to get my grades going. And then when that moment passes and you get there, you feel wonderful. Even if you didn't do everything you did, it's a moment that you've been dreaming about for a long time. You know those moments that you always like your graduation. You just make more of those moments for yourself because they become so much more rewarding. Even if it is like, on Tuesday I will wash the dishes, and you dream about that moment of successfully washing the dishes. When Tuesday comes around and you're washing the dishes, like, I've been dreaming about this moment, and you feel wonderful. Really do.
I love that so much. I'm just in such awe because I think this is so true. I especially love, and I just want to highlight what you said, plug in as many senses as possible because our brain does work constantly to make that come true. That's such a powerful technique. Thank you
Oh,
so
you're so
much for
very
sharing
welcome.
that with us. What's one thing, Andrew, that you'd like to empower others to do to improve the quality of their life?
Recognize the skills and abilities of other people. Recognize, for me, what that looks like is when I talk to you about film, is I realize that film is not just about holding a camera. Film is writers. I need artists. I need people who can draw. I need people who can paint. I need people who can make costumes. I need people who can sing. I need people who need to just about anything. I have found ways to make anyone else's talent complement or value to my own. And you can do that with virtually anything. Virtually any art form can complement or work with another person's talent. And so look for other people's talents and highlight them. And that blesses your quality of life so much more, and your relationships with other people. Look for ways that you can complement other people's talents.
See, that's such a great way that you serve people as well, just by
Mm-hmm.
even mentioning that. I love that. I love that
You're
empowering tool.
welcome.
Thank you. So, Andrew, for the people listening to your voice today, what's something you would encourage others to do, and what words of encouragement would you give them?
Take time right after listening to this to take a note card and dream about your next dream moment. Write it down and make a list of people in your life whose talents you can team up with, or whose talents you can help improve theirs in some way. Write it down, because as we talked about, writing it down, just thinking about it is not enough. Write it down and take note of what actually happens. Just remind yourself of all the good things that you've done, and the journey. Enjoy the journey.
That is so beautiful. Thank you so much for giving us those words of
Thank you so much
encouragement,
for
Andrew.
having me and for doing this call. It's been wonderful.
You know, the last thing I want to ask you, the last question, is that I believe we're all empowered to create the life, the love, the reality in the world that we want. That's a big message of this podcast. I believe it. I feel it in my heart and in my soul. And my last question to you is, what is a reality you want to create in your life, Andrew?
I have been very blessed to have worked on a project over in Nauvoo, Illinois, where a whole bunch of people come around from the country, and they get together. And this little tiny city of Nauvoo, Illinois, it's practically a ghost town during the fall to winter months. But come summertime, everyone is there working to something. They all work to put on pageants, and to kind of, there's some old homes there that they turn into kind of historical tours you can go take, and everyone acts, and it's really quite a wonderful experience. But what's magical about that is that everyone, because everyone's so focused on the same goal, and they're happy working together. It really was like a biblical Zion, is how I felt. And that is a reality I would love to see, and I love to bring about in my life, is everyone just being willing, so happy to serve and to love each other, is something that I try and live myself. and I would love to see it come to pass.
When you were talking about that, I remember when we were total strangers back in university and I was having problems with my phone and my calendar, and you just offered to help me. So you already live this attitude of service and this heart of serving people. So I want to thank you so much for sharing your perspective today, coming on, sharing your purpose, your story, and this empowering tool with me. And I want to celebrate you for being so service focused and having a genuine service filled heart and helping people, because the world is more beautiful with people like you in it, with those beautiful
You're
desires.
so kind. Thank you.
Where can people connect with you, Andrew?
You can find me on Facebook or on Instagram. My Instagram, I am Wesley_Productions, or on Facebook. Just look me up. I'm Andrew Soulier. Send me a message and we can start chatting and find ways to connect and make our talents mesh.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Andrew. It's been a complete pleasure having you on the show. I've learned so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful talking to you.
Thank you for listening. Subscribe so we can connect with new episodes. A truth I want to leave you with today is that you're empowered to create the life, the love, the reality, and the world that you want. I believe in you.
Oh, thank you.